The RTX 3090 used to be the perfect 4K gaming GPU when it first launched in 2020. But what about now, in 2025? Can it still deliver a pleasant experience when paired with a 4K monitor? Well, thanks to the image quality improvements introduced by DLSS 4, the 3090 might actually be able to do it. So, let's find out. To test this, I'm using the Founders Edition of the RTX 3090 paired with the Ryzen 7 9800X3D CPU as part of my Be Quiet PC build powered by MSI. And we'll be experiencing the games today on one of the best monitors for the job. This is the 4K 240Hz MSI QD OLED 272URX. Brilliant display, I highly recommend it. And by the way, if you are interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon at the links in the description below. Let's start with the latest hit, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. We are at 4K resolution using experimental graphics quality preset. This is the absolute maximum possible. FOV is set to 100 and native AA is enabled, so this is indeed 4K native resolution. But we'll take a look at DLSS resolution upscaling a little bit later on in the video. The experimental graphics quality preset is quite demanding, so I am not surprised at all to see 30 plus FPS produced by the RTX 3090 on the 4K monitor. Yeah, while this is still a playable experience, I don't enjoy playing my games at 30 plus FPS. I want at least 60 in first-person view games, so that's what we'll aim for, 60 plus FPS consistently, which means that we have to make some adjustments to the settings. Personally, I think that we should go and select Ultra Graphics Quality preset right away. There's just no reason to mess around with the experimental graphics quality preset. I think it's a little bit too much to handle for the RTX 3090, but if I'm wrong and we'll get good FPS, then we might come back to it to check it out some more. Lowering the graphics quality improved the performance quite a bit. We are now at 40 plus FPS, which is nice, but still, we're quite far away from the 60 plus FPS experience we're looking for. I think we should start using resolution upscaling. Let's select DLSS Quality mode and see what happens. This is 1440p resolution upscaled to 4K, and it looks very nice indeed. DLSS 4 looks brilliant. I like it very much. And even though the DLSS 3 version gets us more FPS at the same resolution quality, DLSS 4 image quality is just so much better that I think that DLSS 3 is irrelevant nowadays. It's just not worth using if you have the option to use DLSS 4. And in terms of performance, I think this is quite good. We're getting 60 plus FPS with very few dips to 56, 55-ish. So it's not a consistent 60 plus FPS experience, but still, this is very much enjoyable already. And the game still looks beautiful. I mean, why wouldn't it? We're on DLSS quality mode with Ultra Graphics Quality preset enabled. This is pretty much not exactly maxed out, but really close to it. One thing worth noting is that the RTX 3090 is still quite a power-hungry GPU. It can suck down 350 watts of power easy, but I don't think it's as bad as the latest RTX 5090, which can absolutely destroy your electricity bill by sucking down 575 watts of power. That's like well over half a kilowatt. It's just insane. So in comparison, the RTX 3090 is actually not too bad, but in terms of comfort during gaming in the summer month, yeah, that could be an issue, having a 350 watt GPU just heating up your room, unless you have a dedicated cooling solution for your room specifically. Let's lower DLSS quality to balanced now. The overall image quality presented on the screen didn't change much because of the balanced mode. It's pretty much the same as DLSS quality. You really have to zoom in and start comparing things side by side to see the difference between the balanced mode and quality mode. It's just looking pretty good, the balanced mode, that is. And we're getting more FPS. We're now at 60 plus consistently without any drops below 60 that were happening over here previously, and we can even get 69 FPS. Hold on, can we do it again? Yes, 69, nice, beautiful. Basically, you can get a 60 plus FPS consistent experience in this game with this set of settings. Ultra graphics quality preset, DLSS set to balanced. The image looks absolutely gorgeous on the 27-inch 4K display. But we can actually go even further and select DLSS Performance mode, which actually looks decent now. The Performance mode uses 1080p resolution and upscales it to 4K. And yes, indeed, compared to DLSS Quality mode, the image presented on the screen is appearing a little bit softer. Finer details on the screen, such as grass and foliage, are not as crisp as when we're using DLSS Quality mode. But this is still a perfectly fine experience, I think, especially since we're getting higher frame rate. This is quite nice. It is an absolutely acceptable way to play the game. It doesn't look horrible at all, and we can still get 69 FPS. Hold on, yes, there we go. Yeah, 69. Nice. Although the performance difference between balanced and performance modes is minimal, in my opinion, at least in this game, in this scenario. But yeah, it's nice to know that if we ever encounter a scene where we need more FPS, then we can just quickly switch DLSS to performance mode to get that extra little bit of FPS. There's one more graphics configuration I would like to check. I'm going to leave DLSS on performance mode and increase the graphics quality to experimental. We're still getting 60-ish FPS with drops below 60, of course, from time to time. But damn, absolutely maxed out settings, still playable experience. That is pretty darn good. Although, oh my god, 47 FPS. Yeah, the image now looks a little bit too choppy for my liking, because when FPS drops below 55, I really feel the difference. It's just, yeah, I don't like it. I don't like when FPS is at 45 or even 50. 55 plus is what I'm looking for at a minimum. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle is a great game to have a look at if we want to learn more about where the gaming industry is headed in 2025 and beyond in terms of technical things that are introduced in games, because this game is quite memory heavy and there will be more games like this coming out this year. One similar game that comes to mind is the new Doom. So I think it will be fun to have a look at the RTX 3090 and how it does in terms of ray tracing, performance, as well as memory usage in the modern game. We are at 4K resolution using the absolute maximum graphics quality preset, and no ray tracing for now. DLAA enabled, which means that we are at native 4K resolution. In a GPU demanding scenario in this game, we're still getting well above 50 FPS, and the only thing is that there will be drops to around 50-ish or maybe 48 in some scenes at the beginning of the game, as well as in some other levels. But mostly, this is a pretty good experience, wouldn't you say so? Native 4K resolution in a modern game. Yeah, the RTX 3090 is still performing quite well, but let's take a look at another example, right? We are loading into another section of the game that is less GPU demanding, and we're getting a consistent 60 plus FPS experience, which is brilliant. 70 plus sometimes, 69, nice. And the memory usage is just a little bit above 12 gigabytes, 12.63. This game has low-level ray tracing enabled by default, so even when it says that ray tracing is disabled, low-level settings are still applied. And this is the way that games will run in the future. They will use ray tracing more and more. So it is increasingly important to have a GPU that can do ray tracing well. As you've seen, this game is pretty well optimized because we're using Supreme Graphics Quality preset, and the FPS is still fine, even at native resolution, so I don't think we should be lowering any of the graphics quality settings. We can just go ahead and use DLSS resolution upscaling to boost our FPS. Let's select DLSS Quality mode and see what happens. Now in the jungle, we're getting a consistent 60 plus FPS experience, sometimes reaching 80 FPS. This is beautiful. Smooth image, fluid frames, yes, very nice indeed. Now let's check out DLSS Balanced mode. The FPS is a little bit higher, but it's not groundbreaking compared to DLSS Quality Performance. Yeah, it's a bit better, gives us a little bit more room to work with in terms of performance. So I think we can start introducing ray tracing into the mix. I think we should start with the absolute highest ray tracing preset, that is full ray tracing, which enables path tracing as well, just to take a look at like what can we expect from the RTX 3090 in worst case scenario. DLSS stays on balanced. Let's have a look. Oh my, the full ray tracing preset absolutely destroyed the performance. Take a look at that. We went from getting 90 FPS plus to 25 FPS. The only thing that this is good for is to appreciate the beauty of full ray tracing in static scenes. So that's the most you can get out of the RTX 3090 in that regard. Just, kind of get a little taste of, of what it's like to play with full ray tracing enabled. But yeah, this is not an enjoyable experience at all. That's a shame. But take a look at that. We're utilizing more than 12 gigabytes of memory that NVIDIA loves these days so much on their graphics cards. I still can't believe that the RTX 5070 features just 12 gigabytes of memory. Let's start reducing that ray tracing quality. We'll go for the high preset next. The FPS is a little bit better. We're now getting 30-ish FPS. There will be dips below 30, so I don't think it's a playable experience at all. Even if you are used to console-like experiences with 30 FPS, yeah, it's not a good place to be, especially not on PC. Maybe if we select the DLSS Performance mode, let's take a look at what that is like, because in terms of image quality, Performance mode is okay now. Nah, It's not a game changer, although we are now getting a consistent 30 plus FPS experience. This is still nowhere near good enough, in my opinion. In other locations in the game, this is actually not too bad using the high ray tracing preset. Take a look at this. Indoors in the museum, we're getting above 60 FPS. Wow. This is actually playable and enjoyable. And the reason why I like ray tracing high preset is because it looks beautiful in terms of reflections on these glass panels. It is much better than what we'll see with medium ray tracing preset. Believe me, medium doesn't look as good as this. It is actually nice to see that we can use ray tracing in some levels of the game to appreciate the beautiful graphics that the game developers have crafted for us to enjoy. Yeah, even the 3090 can deliver. And it's still a good thing that we have 24 gigabytes of memory, because we are using almost 15 gigabytes right now. The RTX 3080 Ti with its 12 gigabytes of memory is going to be useless in this game, even though it has pretty much very similar performance to the RTX 3090, but the 12 gigabytes VRAM buffer is its downfall. It's just not big enough to fit in all of these effects, because ray tracing requires extra video memory to run. There's one last configuration that we should try. Let's go for the medium ray tracing quality, and we'll keep DLSS on performance for now, but we'll take a look at the balanced preset as well. In the museum area, we are now getting 90 plus FPS, but as I mentioned previously, the reflections in the glass panels look absolutely horrible using the medium ray tracing preset. It's only good for lighting and shadows, basically. Yeah, the reflections don't look nice at all. But you can't argue with the performance we're getting. 100 plus FPS in some scenes. And it is still possible to enjoy the jungle section of the game, because we're getting 50-ish FPS, although, yeah, there are some dips to around 45. For me personally, this is not enjoyable, so I would most likely turn off ray tracing completely for this section of the game. But damn, the shadows with ray tracing enabled look so much better in this game. When you turn off ray tracing, well, not turn off, but set it to low, basically. Off in this game means low ray tracing. The shadows, they don't look nice at all. Let me show you what I mean. I think this is a good spot to show exactly what I mean. Just take a look at this image right here, how it is presented, how everything looks good, no shimmering, no flickering or anything, right? And then once we turn off ray tracing, essentially setting it to low setting, let's see what happens. You see, the shadows changed completely, and now we see those lights flickering. That is the sun shining through the leaves, through the foliage, and it's just, this doesn't look nice. This actually looks distracting. And as you walk through the forest, you can see those lights flickering throughout the whole scene, everywhere. Yeah. That's why I think that ray tracing is quite important nowadays. Unfortunately, the RTX 3090 is not good for ray tracing experiences in some of the more demanding scenes in the modern games. And this isn't even the most demanding game in my arsenal. We'll take a look. Alan Wake 2 is the most GPU demanding game in my arsenal. We are at native 4K resolution using high graphics quality preset. I don't think it's worth maxing out graphics in this game because, well, we'll see. If I am wrong and the RTX 3090 will miraculously show us extremely high FPS, then we'll increase the quality of those settings. But for now, let's keep it on high and ray tracing disabled. A quick note, high graphics quality preset actually looks gorgeous in this game, so you don't actually need to max out all the settings to have a brilliant experience in this game. High graphics quality preset is good enough. And as you can see, at native resolution, we're getting 40 plus FPS in some scenes, 30 plus in other scenes. So it's not a beautiful experience by any means. And once we enter the forest area, everything falls apart completely. We're getting below 30 FPS. Not nice. So let's see if DLSS will help us salvage this situation, starting with DLSS Quality mode. Indoors, it's actually pretty good. We're now getting only a few dips below 60. I've seen 56 just then, but then we're getting above 60 FPS in other scenes. This is already a pleasant experience, I would say, because the majority of the game will be unraveling in similar scenes to this one. Oh, 69 FPS, nice. So this is pretty much what you can expect in the majority of the game. If you use this set of settings, then you'll be fine. But as I mentioned previously, we're not using ray tracing at all. As a result, reflections look absolutely horrible. And in the forest area, DLSS quality mode is still not enough to keep us close to the 60 FPS experience that we're looking for, because there are dips below 50 from time to time. Could it be possible with DLSS Balanced? Let's see. In the forest area, it is still not quite enough, although we are now getting consistently above 50 FPS. Hold on, over here is the most demanding scene usually that I know of, 49 FPS. Not a huge deal, but we're still not close to the 60 FPS experience that we're looking for. However, it should be noted that in other locations in the game, DLSS Balanced mode will deliver a beautiful, consistent 60 plus FPS experience, or even 70 plus in some scenes. Let's try DLSS Performance mode next, that is 1080p upscaled to 4K. Shockingly, even using this settings configuration, we cannot get a consistent 60 plus FPS experience. There will be scenes where we drop below 60, although I think it is acceptable now. I mean, it's not perfect, but what can you do? I would just have to live with it. I would be able to accept this kind of performance personally in some scenes. Yeah, but that would definitely make me think about upgrading if I owned the RTX 3090 from day one. And I've seen something like this, that it's no longer capable of delivering a good experience, consistent 60 plus FPS in all scenes, then yeah, it's definitely worth thinking about an upgrade. But if you are buying the RTX 3090 used, then damn, this GPU is still strong. Unfortunately, this kind of performance tells me that we can't really expect much out of the RTX 3090 if we use ray tracing in this game. But let's try it anyway. Let's select low ray tracing preset and see what happens. Oh, and by the way, DLSS ray reconstruction is consuming more resources on the RTX 3090 for some reason, but without it, the image quality looks absolutely horrendous. There's just too much noise introduced into those ray tracing effects. So using ray tracing without ray reconstruction is not a pleasant experience in this particular game. And that is why I think we should keep it on. Even in the less demanding locations in the game, we are now below 50 FPS. This isn't good. As I mentioned, even on low ray tracing preset, I don't think we'll be able to get a playable, well, it is a playable experience, but it's not an enjoyable one, at least not in my opinion. And even with ray reconstruction enabled, some ray tracing effects on low preset look absolutely horrible, like that flickering in reflections. Let me show you closer. You see that? Yes, that flickering, it shouldn't be there. And if you enable medium ray tracing preset, it will disappear. It will be absolutely beautiful in terms of reflections. But that's how it goes. Unfortunately, in some of the most GPU demanding games, the RTX 3090 is no longer capable of delivering a good experience using ray tracing, even the lowest ray tracing qualities. And just to remind you that we are using DLSS Performance mode, so we're not even on Balanced. Let's go ahead and enable medium ray tracing preset that actually looks nice and enjoyable in this game. This is the kind of preset that I consider to be transformative in this game. Of course, high as well as ultra ray tracing presets look much better, but they're just out of reach. Because even in the town area, we're getting 40 plus FPS with dips to 30-ish from time to time. This is not a pleasant experience. We're using DLSS Performance, so it's not worth dropping that quality even more. Yeah, Ultra Performance DLSS doesn't look nice. It's just destroying too much of finer details, and it's just not worth it. DLSS Performance is the absolute lowest quality that I accept using on a 4K monitor, and even then, it's best to stick with DLSS Balanced where possible. But just out of curiosity, let's max out ray tracing. Let's select Ultra. In the less demanding locations, we can still kind of check out what the highest ray tracing preset is all about. We're now getting 30 plus FPS, beautiful shadows, amazing. In conclusion, the RTX 3090 is still very much capable of delivering some pleasant experiences when paired with a 4K monitor in 2025. However, it is starting to show its age in the latest, most graphically demanding games, where it struggles to deliver a good experience on a 4K monitor, even without ray tracing enabled. That's what we've seen in Alan Wake 2, and believe me, there will be more of those kind of games that are extremely GPU demanding, that are going to come out in 2025 and beyond. Maybe Alan Wake isn't your cup of tea, maybe you don't like it, but there will be games that you will want to play and that will be extremely GPU demanding, making you wish that you had something a little bit more powerful than the RTX 3090. Of course, you can always lower some graphics settings, but then what are we doing at 4K at that point? I don't think it's worth it. DLSS 4 certainly gave this graphics card a second lease on life, because now we can use DLSS Performance mode, and it looks, I would say, pretty much as good as DLSS 3 Balanced used to look. So that is a huge win for the RTX 3090. And I really appreciate NVIDIA supporting their GPUs like that. We are not seeing that kind of support from Intel or AMD. That said, the massive 350 watt power consumption is kind of a big deal as well, because for this kind of money, you can still buy a used RTX 4070 Super or the new RTX 5070 if you can find it in stock, and get a much more pleasant experience in terms of power usage. Those GPUs will consume around 200 watts. That's what, 150 watts less than this one right here. And having 12 gigabytes of memory is kind of a problem, but it's not that big of a deal in terms of gaming experience. If you are primarily picking your graphics card for gaming, then I would go for one of those instead, because even with this GPU, you have to make some sacrifices in terms of settings, so might as well just make some sacrifices on a more power efficient GPU, enjoy the games on a much cooler GPU that's not gonna heat up your room like the RTX 3090 does. Anyway, that's what I think about this combo. Let me know what you think about the RTX 3090 paired with a 4K monitor in 2025. Would you buy this graphics card? Let me know in the comments. And if you're interested in any of the products featured in this video, you can find them on Amazon and the links in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, then don't forget to reward my work with a like. That helps out a lot. Click on that join button below to become a channel member and support these kind of projects that I do on the channel. It's only thanks to my YouTube channel members that I can fund these projects. And if you haven't subscribed yet, then do that if you want to see more videos like this. It was I, Vadim. Until next time.